Folks, it's 28 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. Thank you for staying with us. Pastor Clive Dottin at the funeral service for slain policeman Hayden Warren yesterday claimed that schoolboys are being trained to be killers and that many young people within the illegal trades are desperate for a way out. In studio to discuss these matters and more is Pastor Clive Dottin. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
To Morning Edition. It's great to have you. I am always blessed when I'm in your presence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Pastor, let me ask you, you've made some very interesting claims that there is an actual organized group that is training school-age boys to be assassins in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, and that has been going on for some time. And it starts very simply. If you see one of the guys that were charged for Man Warren's death, 19 years older, nobody suddenly, and I said he was charged, I'm not saying he's guilty, but he was charged.
Right.
I'm saying there are several areas in our country where, in fact, let me deal with this immediately. We have had one of our secondary schools where there was a gang eruption. Do you know one of the gangs went for the adult armed gangs to deal with that gang, beat a fella so terribly that his skull was almost cracked? And I mean, I mentioned yesterday, and nobody told me this, you know, I've been actively involved because I believe I'm here for a purpose, to rescue young people in crisis. That is my mission that God has appointed me. And I went to school and I was shocked, and I gave part of the story yesterday. Let me give you the whole story. Here you are a single parent. And by the way, that is the LCM, and a lot of these gangs, young gangs at school, are single-parent homes. And the mother brought a gang to discipline and beat, all right, guys whom she claimed attacked her son. Do you know, when she got to the school, the principal told her that it was her son, all right, who beat up on some other guys, his gang. And I understand from the principal who spoke to me that you had to tell the lady, in the first place, you're wrong to bring gangs to the school.
So parents are hiring gangs to
do their dirty work. And by the way, it's even worse than that. It is even worse than that. They're parents who tell their children, don't take any lash from any teacher. Now, I know we have outlawed corporal punishment in the school system, but to tell your son, and then you will tell your son if anybody dares to discipline you, you will take care of them. And I remember I went to a school in the San Juan community about 12 years ago, all right? And you had drug lords around the school intimidating teachers. And I went to one in South Trinidad 14 years ago. So this is not a yesterday affair. This has been taking place under our noses for a long time. And we have refused to really deal with it. And we have to deal with it.
Pastor, let me ask you this. You have sat as a commissioner on the Police Service Commission. Trinidad and Tobago is a small society, small population, 1.3 million people, give or take a couple thousand. But the situation is simply this. If all of this is so well known within the communities, why isn't it that our police officers have taken control of a lot of these situations? A lot of these people, these perpetrators of criminal activity and so on, these are people who are well known to the community. And if they're well known to the community, certainly, surely, they must be well known to the police. Why have we not seen a greater intervention by the police service into a lot of these situations that are long-standing?
Well, let me just tell you one thing, let's see with the community and the police. In some places, the community protects these guys. I want to say protects, yeah, protect these guys because their silence is purchased. They are for sale. The community has become a place for sale. That's one. And secondly, as I said at the funeral, we have had, I begged police officers who were there yesterday, and soldiers, and prison officers, etc. I begged them not to be part of the JI Club, the Judas Incorporated Club. Because when you have to fight, all right, the gangster does one thing. But when you have to fight him when he's being protected by those who are supposed to protect and serve the citizens of this country, then you have a compound problem that is even bigger than that. The underground economy has enough money to buy a lot of people, you know. The underground economy is 3 times your national budget. Now the economists, like who you had here, could could perhaps give a proper spin on that. But you have an underground economy that is heavy. And remember, as I told a radio talk show host today, remember, cocaine is not being produced here, so it has to be imported. Do you know we have a 21-year-old right now languishing in jail? After that siege in Piaki, I put up $22 million worth of cocaine a shipment. Something went wrong. Somebody who was compromised and was supposed to facilitate the passing of the suitcases of cocaine turned up late, and the wrong person, sorry, should I say the right person, was at the back at the time, and they had somebody in JFK airport waiting to receive it, you know, to compromise even the security up there. And I told that young man, I went to see him in maximum security, and I told that young man, son, I will die, all right, and you will still be here, and you'll get to be my age and still be here. I had to tell him that. I said, come clean, come straight. But there is a fear level, because a lot of young men in the school system, they're telling me, Pastor, when I go in to intervene with the gangs, they say, Pastor, we want to get out, but how? How do we get out? When we joined it for excitement. We had a gun placed in our hand. We were protecting the ammunition, because the feeling is that once the young people, I've had grandparents tell me along this corridor, that they've walked into their bedrooms and seen bullets and guns on the bed. That is what is taking place right now. And you see what is happening. We have to search everywhere. We can't sit sure and we'll have stuff in the school bags and we'll have weapons in the school bags. We cannot say that, because some security agents have been, intimidated by that situation right now. And we have to decide as a society what we want. And yesterday, I think there was an interview with Fixing TNT.
Yes.
About having a cook-wheat, right. I admire what he's trying to do. But the just call for an election is not cutting it, you know. Unless we have significant constitutional reform, unless we have significant campaign financing reform, because to my mind, the campaign financing is where we affirm the godfathers of the drug trade in this country and the gun dealers, because every election they feel they could buy the political parties. And I don't know, from where I sit, I don't know, and I hope I am totally wrong. I am not perfect, I make my mistakes. I pray to God for forgiveness. I don't know if we have a political institution in this country, all right, or anywhere in the Caribbean, who is willing to take on those who own the trade, those who import the cocaine, those who set up young people. And let me tell you something. Some people at the university are saying it's not an elaborate structure, it's just loose, all right? It's a loose cartel. I disagree with that. Because what I am seeing in this society is that you have the international bosses. Because we don't produce the drug here, all right? We produce the marijuana here. But we have hydro marijuana coming in from Jamaica, which is the best. You know, it uses high technology to produce the impact that it does. So you have the international, but then you have the managerial elite consisting of several professions. I have said before, stick a pin, I have said before, that behind every consistently corrupt, all right, security officer, you may have a lawyer, a politician, all right? You may have all of that there, all right, behind every, and maybe a customs officer or somebody else involved in the crime. So, and a businessman, of course. You must have the business because there's $1 million involved. So you have that managerial elite, all right, where they have this special partnership. And below that, you have the guys on the ground. Okay, and I want to look at my notes here. You have the local gangs, and below that, you have the recruiting campaign. Do you realize you kill, and people are killing and killing and killing, and the gangs are still flourishing because they have absolutely great recruitment campaign. We spoke to an 8-year-old from the Love Until Foundation doing a career guidance program for young people under the age of 11. And when we came to the guy and asked him, what you want to be? He said, I want to be a gunman just like my dad. So they've seen the modeling and the mentoring. One guy in a particular hotspot area that I interviewed, because his grandparents were taking care of him. That's the next thing. Let our grandparents enjoy the retirement. Parents accept the responsibility. We have to find a way to call fathers to board in this society.
But Pastor, are we in danger, therefore, of Trinidad and Tobago becoming a narco state?
Yes, I feel we're in danger of that. In fact, my feeling is that we have lost our independence. And it's a sad thing to say that after we celebrated 50 years. But I think, apart from certain structural changes and stuff, and changing of colors and what have you, I frankly believe we're almost approaching the point of no return. And therefore, we're on the edge, we're on the boil. And you have significant factors coming together. And there's nothing where we have to target the messenger, all right, and try to destroy the messenger. There are some of us who are working our butts off every day, spending 4 and 5 hours in schools talking to young people. And we need more people to adopt young people in the society. A lot of those young men, I spoke to 2 of the most dangerous young men in Form 5 in this country. to the motive. And you know what happened? Those guys want to change. One told me I want to be in the army. One told me I want to be Coast Guard. I said, but the record you're getting right now. There are young people in schools before the courts right now. I mean, what happened? I am the only one who knows that. That is not a fact. I'm telling you. And I am saying it takes courage. You mentioned that in interviewing Senator Balgomin. Listen, it's the courage and the will we have to do this. And we can still save this. I'm saying now, we can still save the society. But we have got to appreciate that we can't target people and shift the blame, parents to politicians, and politicians to the businessmen, and businessmen to the lawyers, and everything else there. We have got to assume responsibility and realize we are here for a purpose. We believe in creation, those of us who believe in God. We're here for a purpose. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. Before we're in our mother's womb, God had a purpose and a plan for our lives. We must identify that purpose and find that purpose. But I think once to every man and nation comes a moment to decide. And that is the moment for this country. Before we explode.
But Pastor, one of the challenges that you face is that people in communities right now, they're listening to you right now, and they're cowering in fear. You are telling people right now that there are school children walking around with guns in their backpacks. And you tell me, Pastor, if I see a school-aged child involved in some errant activity in the community, and I seek to correct them, and they have a gun in their backpack, I have to be courageous.
No weapon. That's right. And I'll tell you what happened. I have seen young people, you have to confront them. I went to a school, you know, and the principal, female, are not sexist, but the counselor, female, young female, the VP, young female, and they're running rings around, and it's courage, you know, it's courage. I went to that school, mashing up teachers' windscreens or what have you there. Went to that school. And we made a difference, you know, we had some interventions, we made a serious difference. We can make a difference to those young people. Those young people want to do what is right, in spite of their exposure to the viciousness and the DVDs and the Dungeons and Dragons and whatever have you there. Want to make a difference. And one guy told me, say, you have no right to come here. There's a Form 5 student talking to me, you know. They had a heart that had lasted them to come in the library. You have no right to be here, Pastor. You have absolutely no right to be here. I say, you tell me where I'm going. You tell me where I'm going. And I jumped at him one time. And in fact, the rate he was sitting down, and I went over him like that. So any attempt he made, although he's bigger than me, he'd have a problem. You understand? And then I have a Bible in my hand that could throw some electrical sparks at him there. And I watch him in his eyes, eyeball to eyeball. I say, you hate me. You know why you hate me? Because your father has neglected you. Your father hates you. And since your father cannot love you, you feel every man. You don't know me. And you want to chase me out of here. You want to choose violence. I say, I have a second thought coming, you know, for I'll give you a Holy Ghost karate chop. You sit down right there and you listen to me. All of you here, most of you don't know your father. Most of you, all right, are violent. You have a rage inside of you. And taking out on your teachers and the principal and giving her hell and sending us a premature date with an undertaker. I say, you have a mother. You have a mother that takes care of you. And you have to show respect for the principal there because you have a mother right now. And I'm saying to you, after I finish with them, those guys have tears in their eyes. And that tells me that who regard as the worst young people, they want help. They want to have a dream. One guy told me, he said, Pastor, I said, he hit a fella in a school with his fist. And you won't believe he had a power-packed density in his bones there. Virtually fractured his skull.
He could be Mike Tyson. He could be the next Mike Tyson.
I'm telling you. I spoke to him. He said, Pastor, let me tell you something. He came into the council room. He said, Pastor, let me tell you something. I want to change. I want to escape the punishment when you come out of a gang. Help me, Pastor. Help me, Pastor. And we put in some structures in place to help that young man. And by the way, in Form 3, he was the brightest guy in the school. The devil attacks the best first. And it's the power of God and the courage you need to have to make a difference. And we cannot give up. Once to every man and nation comes a moment to decide. We cannot give up.
I think we're at that moment of decision. We're going to take a very quick break and come back with more from Pastor Dottin. We're really trying to find a way forward, especially for our young people in this blessed land of ours. We'll be back. It's 50 minutes before the hour of 8 o'clock. If you're on the way to work, you should be there by now. And remember, you can continue to listen to us at 87.7 FM. We have in studio Pastor Clive Dottin. You know him. He's worn many hats in our society. He is an advocate for order, for peace, and for love. But interestingly, we need to treat firstly with our young people. Pastor, you said that young people have been caught up in the gangs. They want to escape the gangs, but they can't seem to find a way out How do we help them find a way out?
I think what has to happen, the church has to play a very significant role here. And I'm calling for, please, government and political parties, don't reinvent the wheel. We have serve all. Don't limit them. Don't decrease subventions to them. Expand that serve all program. It is proven, tried and tested from the day Father Jerry Pantin started that program. I'm saying expand. I want to identify people once quickly. The serve all program.
Yes.
Programs like the Love Until Foundation, running 4 homes right now for children and troubled youth and addicts. All right, invest in them. Republic Bank Youth Program. Let the Education Ministry, Youth Ministry look at what is happening by the Republic Bank Youth Link Program. It's a phenomenal program. And then we have got to look at parent teachers associations. I think we have to creatively restructure. That is a group that we don't look at seriously, but it's a very important group because you have to form that nexus between the parents, the police, the business sector, the honest business sector, all right, and the pastoral profession. We've got to move the churches away from the pulpit within and transport them outside. And by the way, there are churches who are doing a lot of good work, but we have to do more. We have to become a little more relevant. We have to engage young people, not just at the preaching level, but at the one-to-one counseling level. Young people are looking for shoulders to lean on right now. They have been abused. They have been trapped. They don't know it would be so bad. You understand? How does a young person feel he opens a newspaper, in the front page, you see a head on top of a table? Are we accustomed to a kind of cult here? We've had instances before, but the rate at which we are going now, we are going down the hill, you know, faster than the speed of light. And we need to arrest it. So I'm saying, for starters, listen, I hear officers at Shabody, Gera and Peters, 3 outstanding police officers like Man Warring, crying out for help, crying out for resources. Shabody has turned that building into a resource center, into, a home center. Your men stay there and sleep, and stuff is provided for them is by the grace of God. Sometimes food arrives there by a miracle. And I'm saying all these programs that have been proven, by the way, some of these police clubs, you know what the drug lords are saying in the community? You know what they are saying? They're teaching the young people to be informers. So they're targeting those honest police officers who are rescuing young people and pulling them off the street. That is where we have reached. I have spoken to fathers. I spoke to a father from Maloney, all right, who has teenage children and a teenage daughter. You know what the drug lord said? You want them for yourself. You don't want me to get them. Invading the sacred space of the family. So even fathers right now who want to make a difference are being challenged by gunmen because they want their daughters.
But Pastor, I want to bring some clarity to this matter. Now, we talk about these drug dealers, drug lords, and whoever else involved in this nefarious trade, but the issue is simply this. In Trinidad and Tobago, we don't consume all of those drugs. No, I mean, the level of the trade is such that this is not a trade where the drugs stay in Trinidad and Tobago. These drugs are being transshipped via Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we are talking, therefore, drugs on a wholesale basis.
Transnational crime. That's what we're talking about. Transnational crime. But some stay here.
But, yes, for the so-called small domestic market. But are these gangs really being funded solely via the drug trade, or is there something else that they're fighting over, like CPEP contracts and URP contracts, and so on and so on?
Of course, and we have political parties consistently, all right, have gone in the way of failing to deal with that, because that is where funding is coming from the financial sector too. Funding is coming from the state sector too, for what should be done on the ground, but that is where some of the investment going, and we continue to make the same mistake. And we must stop that. Again, we must have the courage to put the brake on it there, because we do not like where we see our society going. And each of us must play a role and display the testicular fortitude to deal with it and show the anger when they anger. Because if you have certain things taking place, a girl missing her head and her limbs and her hands there, and you look at, trace that right back to Stacey Ramdeen, all right, who was killed, and there was a suspicion over whether who killed the police, whether she swallowed the cocaine. And then they checked that same family a couple of years ago, 2 people died from there. I mean, come on, man. Come on. We live in a small society. We understand what is taking place here. It's just a resolve. And by the way, dishonesty cannot fight crime. Huh? It takes honesty to fight crime.
But you know, sir, the money involved.
Yes.
The money involved is enticing.
It is. It is. I admit it is.
In many ways, it is difficult for people to walk away from that kind of money, that kind of power, that kind of influence. So much so that it drags their families into the vortex. And of course, in that vortex, they also pull in politicians.
That's right. And that is why I'm saying, as we look at this society right now, you know, I told the police officers yesterday, I can't imagine if after Manwaring's death, his death is in vain. Because everybody said he was a clean cop. He loved to reform the criminal, not just punish criminal. He had a broad mindset, and I stuck in the fact that, perhaps biasly, that he grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist church and internalized the principles. But I wasn't joking there. And I'm saying if after all of this, that doesn't move us, we need a spiritual re-engineering. All we're talking, unless we have the changing of the human heart and a spiritual re-engineering, we're going back to square one. And we have to keep at that. And that is where I think pastors have a very important, the most significant role to play in terms of the spiritual re-engineering of our society. Because there can be no morality without spirituality. Absolutely none.
Well, Pastor Dottin, I think that's the beginning. We begin at the beginning, and we begin with spirituality.
That's right.
And so, sir...
God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
And may God bless you such that you continue this good work. Folks, we are going to take a break, but guess what? We're going to continue Morning Edition for an additional 15 minutes this morning. We're going to bring onto the set Mr. Gregory Aboud to discuss some of these troubling issues as well. Stay with us.